Authority doesn't come from the religious, right? They can question the religion. Authority does not come from the state, except authority comes with the feelings of the citizens. How do the citizens feel, right? And that's a new age that we're entering into now, that even the people are telling the governments that you must change your policies based off of how we feel. And that's one of the characteristics of this post modern age. And as Muslims, this is a danger in the world that we're living into. Okay, it continues. Uh, then with those who are followed, I'm sorry. Then with those who are followed clear themselves of those who follow them. They would see the chastisement, and all relations between them will be cut off. Right. And so this kind of touches us onto the points, and even amongst ourselves, that we know we're told in the Quran that on the day of judgment, you are going to want to come back and just to do just a little bit of good. So this is, so one, even to this ego, this lower self that you've taken as your Lord and that you follow before your Lord, you're going to wish to come back and essentially do the exact opposite of what you were doing in this life if you were heedless. You're going to want to come back and do what God has told you to do, right? But we know that that's not going to be a possibility, but we know that that's what you're going to want to do. Okay? And then ultimately all of these other deities or fake gods that we've taken as gods, this love of money, I don't know, Mickey Mouse, Disney, or whatever it is that we focus on, our job, that we focus on before focusing on Allah and His Messenger. On the day of judgment, they're gonna divorce themselves from us, right? This isn't no, it's not our fault. You're gonna be looking for, well, I spent all of this time to be this business person and to make a perfect life for my children, but I neglected what Allah and His Messenger have told us to do, right? You're going to want to divorce yourself from your bosses and your works and those things that you put before Allah, okay? And it says, and those who follow would say, if only we had one more chance, we would clear ourselves of them, and they as they have cleared themselves of us. Thus will Allah show them the fruits of their deeds as nothing but regret, nor will there be a way for them out of the fire. Now, after this section, touching on this day in which you're going to want to divorce yourself from the items or individuals that you took as importance in this life, rather than what should have been taken. Then it starts to talk about food, or what we ingest. O ye people, eat of that which is on earth, lawful and good, and do not follow the footsteps of Satan, for he is to you an avowed enemy. Now the question is why does Allah bump what is right, bump the obedience, right, and taking other gods besides Allah, right? And immediately following that begins to talk about the food that we eat, right? And again, this is, for the young people as well, right? That the food that you eat, the nourishment that you eat for your body, it has a reality on your worship, right? Don't think that it doesn't, right? If you're constantly, and people might not like it, if you're constantly eating that fast food and that McDonald's, and then you find yourself when it's time to pray Isha, you don't have the strength the to do it, right? Recognize that eating this the haram burgers, I know some people might, but eating this food that is not uh, the best of food, or really in many cases permissible for us to eat, it also affects your spiritual reality. Okay, so Allah is telling us to eat of the good things in this life, those that are lawful and good, right? And so, you know recognize that, because it does affect your spirituality. without a shadow of a doubt. It affects your spirituality, right? For he commands you, right? It's talking about, and that shaitan is an avowed enemy. For he commands you to what is evil and shameful, and that ye should say of Allah that which you have no knowledge, right? And then this is the final what I wanted to touch on. When it is said to them, follow what Allah has revealed, they say, nay, we shall follow the ways of our fathers. What? Even though your fathers were void of wisdom and guidance. And this is the concept, to sum that up. This is the concept that as Muslims, right? It's not. This is not a. Islam is not a birthright, right? Islam is a choice that we must make, right? It is not. It is not a birthright. One of the toughest things I've ever heard is this concept, and some people might have a problem with it, but it is a reality that saying La ilaha illallah doesn't make you special, right? It doesn't make you special, because the munafiq says La ilaha illallah, and he's in the lowest pit of hell beneath the kuffar, right? Uttering this with your words, saying that I'm Muslim, I was born Muslim, right? And that's the extent of your Islam, is not sufficient. What your grandfathers did, what your uncles did, what your mother did, what your grandmother, the status that they had, the knowledge that they had, the empires that they built, has no significance to your reality, to your Islam, right? They will be rewarded for what they did, and you're going to be rewarded for what you did, right? What we have to do and what we have to realize is what makes us special is the practicing, the implementation, the struggle of La ilaha illallah wa Muhammadan Rasulullah in this world, right? And if you utter that, you are going to meet opposition. If you believe it, you utter it, you believe it, and you work to establish that, the saying of the Shahada on the earth, you're going to meet opposition, right? And so there's nothing. Realize that, be prepared for it, right? That's just the reality of the world, and you're not the first one, and so you should actually look forward to that struggle, because you know that it's coming. Okay, so I wanted to touch on, to be successful in this society, we have to understand the histories of this society, right? And there's two philosophies in which the West was built upon, and it is this Greco-Roman society, okay, in the West, and understanding the characteristics of this Greco-Roman society will help us out. And if you know anything about the Greeks, right, the Greeks believed that their society, right, was more powerful, more moral, more astute than any other society in which they encountered. They were unforgiving and unrelenting. Okay, so the Greeks saw themselves as more powerful than anyone else, and they saw the adaptation or adopting any of the characteristics of other societies as weakening Greek society. Okay, so for that reason, when they would destroy utterly other societies, because we don't want any of their philosophies, entering into our philosophy, right? That's the Greek. And so we see that in and amongst American society as well, or Western society. There is a concept that what we have is better, right, than anyone else's society, and we don't, our culture, and we don't want to intermingle that with our great society. And then on the other side of that is the Roman society, which is very interesting. The Roman society was completely opposite. If you study the history of Rome, when they would conquer a civilization, if you adhered to the rules and the regulations of the Roman Empire, you would become a Roman. It didn't matter whether you were white, black, right? or any range of color in between, if you adopted our culture and our ways, then we accepted you as a Roman, right? And if you and in the history, this philosophy was the philosophy that finally allowed for the Christian society to overturn the Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire turns into a Christian society because the Romans didn't say that they was okay. Well, what's the good that they have? Let's talk to these people, right? And then with that conversation, right, eventually with Constantine and well, the Council of Nicaea 324 with Constantine, he takes Christianity as the official state religion of the Roman Empire. Okay, and this is as the Prophet Muhammad told us that there were groups of people that they were split in half from the top of their head. They were split in half. There was groups of people that their flesh was torn from them with an iron rake. There's groups of people that were fed to the lions, and historically these were the Christians, right? Or you could or the Jews early on that dealt with or within the Roman Empire. So step by step, dawa by dawa, eventually, right? And of course, Christianity begins to change, but eventually the Roman Empire becomes the state religion of the Roman Empire, right? Because of this Roman influence in their society, right? Now, here in the United States, we have a combination of both the Greco and the Roman influence in society. Many people that come to America from other parts of the world, they love that there is a freedom in which they can practice their religion that they can't even practice this, with such freedom in their own quote unquote Muslim society here in America. And that's the Roman side of an influence of American society, right? But then of course once you know, if you try to tell people or about this religion, then there's also going to be a part of in this society in which they see you as an enemy though you've never done anything to them. That's the Greco side of the society. Okay, so we have a lot of opportunities here in the West, in this Western world, to actually follow behind in the ways in which the Christianity was able to influence the Roman Empire, right? That as Muslims we have an opportunity to continuously to give dawah and to teach people to have an open conversation with people about Islam, because ultimately that's what our Prophet Muhammad wanted. All that he wanted was an opportunity to tell people about Islam without the influences of his uncles, without the influences of his enemies, right? Without the influences of the state trying to tear him down. Right? But here we are in the West, we have that opportunity. Now the question arises that why are we not taking advantage of that opportunity in mass? Why are we not taking advantage of that opportunity in mass? And I would say, to take it back to the point, is that we've kind of stopped at we're content with being Muslim by birth. And this is a concern and a danger that we have to, right? You have the Muslims over here. We've created our own schools. We've created our masjids. We've created our safety bubble, right? And we're over here and we're Muslim, right? By name and by title. Okay. But then also, and then we have over here where it's the mass society, right? And there's the dangers that are there. There's the lack of faith, the challenges, right, that we have. Now, in this discussion, we have to ask, who is having more of an influence on who? Is our way of life filtering more and more and more into their way of life? Or is their way of life filtering more and more and more into our way of life, right? And I believe this is of course, my opinion. The reason that it is because we have stopped and we have found some kind of false security in just calling ourselves Muslim, right? We're Muslim by birth, right? And we're told in various places within the Quran that that is not enough. It's not. That's not going to cut it, right? Simply saying La ilaha illallah wa Muhammadur Rasulullah is not enough. We have to, right? Rather, we have to choose Islam, implement Islam, and teach Islam. Now, of course, we first do it with ourselves. Then we do it with our family, right? Now, here's the thing. We cannot just stop there, right? We cannot just stop there. We might feel secure. As long as my family's good, everything's good, right? But that reminds me, it was a khutbah, how many, oh boy, 20 plus years ago. And the khatib, a Sudanese brother, he got on the minbar and he made a very profound statement. He said that if you do not stand up and fight against injustice, you will find it in your house. If you don't stand up and fight against injustice, you will find it in your house. We have an obligation to choose Islam, to implement Islam, and to teach Islam. Okay? Right now, we have Muslims that are confused. We have young Muslims that are confused, that have no idea what this religion says. You have Muslims, I've talked to them, I've seen them in the schools, that say that homosexuality, it's okay, right? Love is love. What does it matter? You're not in their house, right? You have Muslims now that are having in the high schools. I saw this of a homecoming dance amongst Muslims, right? That is propagating same-sex dancing with each other, right? Instead, since you can, of the homecoming dance, and these are Muslims, and we've kind of gotten to the point because of a lot of the influences, and we don't feel as though we can fight that. Well, this is what the society is now. If I say something, I'm gonna get canceled, right? And so we just kind of we become part of the get along gang. We let it go, as long as it's not in my family, it's okay, right? But if we don't stand up against it, we're going to find it in our home, right? It might not be amongst your generation. It might not be your children's generation, right? It might be your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, right? But we have to stand up and fight against these ideologies that are going against what Allah and His Messenger said, right? And so this is of the utmost importance, and becoming Muslim by choice. Imam Ghazali, right? One of the concepts, if you study his life, he was a learned person, but he realized at some point, right, that if he doesn't change his ways, there's a strong possibility that he's going to enter into the fire. So he said, I have to rectify myself. I have to rectify my ways. And Imam Ghazali, right, he was teaching. That's the most interesting thing. He was a teacher, but he realized that maybe he's teaching, and in his teaching, it's not for Allah and His Messenger only, right? That his teaching might have been to pump up his ego. That, I don't want to say that he was saying that his ego was his Lord, but he was concerned that, why am I teaching? He was concerned, are my actions really going to be accepted by Allah on the Day of Judgment? And that is a concern that all of us should be in. I was just listening to a lecture on the way here where the Prophet Muhammad SAW told us that if you knew, and we all know this and have heard this, but if you knew what I knew, you would cry more, laugh less, and have no concern for sexual relation. If you knew what I knew, right? So we have to think about that in this concept. We have work to do, right? We actively choose to be Muslim. We actively choose to follow what Allah has told us in the Quran. We actively choose to follow the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We actively choose to follow the guidance of the scholars of this religion, right? We actively choose this. We learn this. We actively choose this, and we live our lives within that boundary. Okay. Now, one of the if you guys, I don't know who, does anybody have their phone? If you would look up on your phone the old English word, not the modern definition, but the old English definition for the word fun. So make sure you don't just say definition of fun. The old English definition of fun. If I can see if somebody can. Right. Hey, say it one more time, a little bit louder. A cheat, a trick, or a hoax. Okay. So the old English, right, definition of fun, it means a cheap trick or a hoax, right? A cheap trick or a hoax. Think about that, guys. When you used to say, right, today, we'll say, I want to have some fun, right? The old English understanding of that, did you really want to live your life in a state of fun? In a cheap trick, right? We're being told today, right, to live your life and have as much fun as possible. That this life is just play. Do what makes you feel good, right? You don't worry about tomorrow, right? Do what makes you happy. Have fun. Okay? Now, if we could look at the new English, the just put define fun, the just basic definition of fun. Enjoyment, amusement, or lighthearted pleasure. Okay, enjoyment, amusement. It's just lighthearted. It's nothing really problematic. Okay, but we understand this is why language matters, right? This is why language matters. Is that just because somebody changed the definition, is fun still the same meaning of fun? Right? How does it go from a cheap trick to lighthearted amusement? You guys understand, right? This is the importance of language. We are not here in this life to have fun, right? Our fun, right, from the new definition, our enjoyment is in the next life. That's where our fun is. Here, we have 80 years if we're lucky, 90 years if we're lucky, right? The average, does anybody know what the average, according to the hadith, the average life of a Muslim will be? 60, in between 60, 70, 63, right? The age of our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. That's the average of all the believers, right? That's what the average is 63 years. Okay. So we have, and that's for many people, it's like, hey, we're all right. We got to be serious, right? We have 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, if we're lucky, of work, of struggle, of establishing La ilaha illallah wa Muhammadan Rasulullah on this earth. We have work to do, right? But to do that, we cannot be content with just saying that I am Muslim by birth, that what my family did, I was, I'm from this land, this country, right? and this is our history. All of that is insignificant for you, right? The same word, ikra, that allowed for those past generations and gave them the motivation to create those empires and wonders in science and wonders in mathematics and wonders in history and just all the wonders all throughout the world. That command of Iqra still applies to us today. It didn't stop, right? When 100 years ago, when the Khalifa ended, it didn't stop. We still have obligations, right? And we still should be implementing these glories and the glories of this religion amongst society, right? But we're not going to do that unless we choose to be outwardly Muslim. And we don't hide, right? We don't hide. And so before I end, it's just a little something, visualization, something to think about. This is a strategy that I do with my students. And, I wish that there was more young people here to kind of understand this concept. But for those that are here right now, think about this, that there are, if you don't have any children, right? Well, if you do have children, think about it like this, right? If you do have children, it kind of gets to the point where you couldn't even understand, how did I live life without these children in my life, right? For those that don't have children, don't really quite understand that yet. But when you do have children, you're going to be like, what was life before them? I don't even know. I felt like it must have been empty, right? But imagine your children, right? If you don't have children, think about your children. If you don't have grandchildren, think about your grandchildren. If you have grandchildren, think about their children, your great grandchildren, right? And the reality is that you love them, though you've never met them, right? You work hard to provide something for them so that they can have something in this life, right? You went to school, you prepared yourself, right? Not just for yourself, but to build something for your family. We're told that the greatest fitna to ever befall this ummah, the ummah of the Prophet Muhammad SAW, is coming, right? What's that fitna? Does anybody want to tell me? The greatest fitna, the Dajjal, or the Masih Dajjal, right? This greatest fitna is coming. Now, if you've actually studied the signs of the end of time, right? And that is a science in this religion, right? If you've studied it, you have to admit that a lot of the signs that our Prophet Muhammad SAW talked about are manifesting themselves. We can delude ourselves. We can be afraid to admit it, right? Illicit sexual behavior running rampant, right? War, conflict, back to back to back to back to back, right? I mean, not even to mention the conflict that's going on right now, right, in Palestine. Nobody knows where that's going to go. Let's just be honest, right? How are you going to prepare the people that you love, right? The people that you love, your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, if you care about them. Maybe your time here, maybe this fitna will not come during your time. But don't you think that you want to warn your next generation of this impending fitna? Think about that, right? Think about that. Just to say that I'm Muslim, right? That's not going to be enough, right? That's not going to be enough. That's not going to be enough of a protection, right? They asked, or Ali asked the Prophet Muhammad SAW, right? What do we do on this day? This fitna. And it says, hold on to The Kitab Allah. Hold on to the Quran. Hold on to it. Right? Hold on to it. So we, and this is for myself first, right? Amongst all of this fitna, we should be hold, because there's fitna, guys. If you don't see it, I don't know what world you're living in, right? There is fitna. And so we have to hold on to this book of Allah. And then we have to take the people that we love and bring us with them, with us, right? The people that we love. So we no longer can just say that I'm Muslim by name. We have to actively practice this religion, right? Because times are dire right now. Times are extremely dire right now, right? And this fitna is coming, right? This fitna is coming. And I don't know, right? There used to be, I was listening to a lecture, that if a family member left Islam, right, that was neighborhood news, right? It was oh my gosh, that such and such family member has left this, doesn't want to practice Islam, right? And the reality of the day, in which they said in the lecture, I'm forgetting where I heard this at, but it really struck me. The reality today is that each and every one of us knows someone, if not just one person, multiple people within our families that are trying to make this decision not to practice this religion, right? This is and there's multiple reasons why that's the case, right? But for us as leaders, as believers, right, we have to try to engender this love, right, um, of this religion, right? Because this doom, this impending doom, is really, really, really something we have to concern ourselves with, right? And this fitna is real, right? So think about that. If it doesn't come in your term, on your time, do you want for your children to be here and the Dajjal pops up and they don't know anything about the Dajjal because well, I don't want to scare them, I don't want to, if not your children, are you comfortable with your grandchildren, being the ones that fall to the dupe of Shaitan, or to the Dajjal, right? Is this right? We have an obligation for that not to happen, right? We have to get up and we have to start teaching. Okay. So, are there any questions that we have? That's the end of everything that I had to speak on. I touched on all the points. Okay, the last point that I had here written down that I wanted to touch on, right? As far as success, what gives the Muslims success is that, in theory, we have a moral superiority to others, right? Because we've been given this guidance, right? We've been given this guidance. We know how to. We've been taught how to go to the bathroom, right? We've been taught how to sit with one another, how to talk to one another, right? How to have adab amongst all of us, right? How the young should speak to the elderly, how the elderly should. There's nothing of our behaviors and mannerisms and morals that were not guided and given to us by Allah and His Messenger. Everything has been touched on, right? But so this is what gives us success and superiority. But when we begin to lose that, when we allow for this other culture, right, to seep into our culture, and we don't have where the children speak to the adults with respect and honor, and we don't have where the adults speak to the children with respect and honor, and we don't have, right, the proper moralities of knowing what you put in your body, what you don't put in your body, the proper moralities as far as relations between spouses, or between a husband and his wife, right? That's an issue that we don't have those moralities. Then who actually gets the upper hand, right? When we lose our morality, then the disbelievers get the upper hand on us. And so in reality, we know as Muslims, right, that when a tribulation befalls us, when hardships befalls us, we don't blame others. That's not the methodology of the believers. We look at ourselves and we say, what is it that we did, that I did, right, that has allowed for Allah to put me in this situation, right? What did I do wrong? Where is my mistake, right? What did I do wrong? You make tawbah for that, and then you get back on your business. This we have to look at, right? The tribulation and that comes, I don't care where it's happening in the world. We have to think about this. I don't care where it's happening in the world or who is affecting the Muslims. The key and the way out of that is what did I do? What did I do wrong? Make tawbah for those actions, right? And then pray that Allah gives me success while implementing this religion. Okay, and this is the concept of being Muslim, right? So if you're hitting hard times, what did I do wrong? Where is this mistake at that I made? Allah forgive me for this. Continue, astaghfirullah, and then let's get back to our business. Okay. So with that, Khalas, I'm done. Is there any questions that we have?
Thank you so much. So I think, me being an immigrant, I didn't grow up here, I was not born here. So I came when I was 23.
Mm-hmm.
And I came, alhamdulillah, practicing good Islam, having a bit of knowledge. Um, but the knowledge, mashallah, was sound. But then when I came here, I was very challenged by so many things. Establishing the language, the culture, the environment, thinking that that knowledge is going to work for me here. But it was so difficult that you don't find the help and the support needed to maintain that knowledge or that iman that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you. So after, as you said, mashallah, that you got to check back and say, where's the problem? So the problem comes back to uh, not understanding the environment that I came into. The environment is totally different. It's so advanced, only in the dunya, but the akhirah is like, it looks something cool.
Mm-hmm.
So if you try to practice your Islam, at that time I was 99, and then I get to the point to realize that the environment is the problem. Sometimes you try to fix yourself, but you fix yourself in the wrong place.
Mm-hmm.
So is it? I'm not saying is it possible to do hijrah. I'm not talking about the hijrah or anything, but I'm just saying, sometimes being a Muslim in an environment that is rotten, that is difficult, and you cannot establish Islam alone. You have to have the community. You got to have the people that support you, and that in the moment when you try to help yourself, you find support. Not only financial support but also spiritual support, where you grow your iman and
Mm-hmm.
so you strengthen your iman to where you know that you have a mission on this world.
Yeah.
So this environment most of the time it's pushing just for material.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be happy, when we are human beings, we look for happiness. We want to be happy. We want to feel successful. We want to feel great. Even in Islam, Allah Ta'ala wants you to be strong. المؤمن القوي خير من المؤمن الضعيف. If you're strong through knowledge, through power, through money, through whatever, but then you cut yourself, that you're not growing as you, because these challenges are not. I think I missed the point I was trying to
No,
say.
I get what you're.
Yeah. So this environment is just more challenges. So we want to be Muslim, we want to be great, but uh, I think that to cause that change and stay as a Muslim, it's a little difficult. It's not as easy as we think.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm speaking for myself. I don't know anybody else how because everybody has. But at the end, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala put us here to be challenged. so we can be tested,
Yeah.
so we can change, we will make the change in our life, we will improve our life and so forth. But there is a lot of ingredients that are not available for our iman to be as it's supposed to.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I don't know if I made a sense to what I'm trying to say here. I think because the the, the matter is so big.
Hmm.
It's not an easy fix. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, you have to protect yourself, you have to protect your family.
Yeah.
But then you find, this is the point I'm trying to get to. You want to be happy, but you only can be happy if you have material things. So happiness here is tied up to, I mean, you want a good life. You're not gonna accept for yourself to just live as a homeless, or
Hmm.
just to live like a low level life, because how are you gonna represent Islam when you live like a poor?
Yeah. No, I understand. I understand.
So
And
I
so,
mean, that's just the point I'm trying to say. Is
yeah.
that where do we start to make our Islam, as we're supposed to, inshallah.
Okay. So there's a couple points that. So first one, what you said, and I think, and this is why I hope that the young people can listen to this, is that this system, and that's why I said the this Greco-Roman society, right, and understanding the history of where we're at and the influence of where we're at, it's extremely powerful, right? It's extremely powerful, and I think as a parent, right, and I've seen this from several different parents. I've got family members right now that are dealing with these matters. Is that they feel as though, well, if our Islam is strong in the house, that I should be able to send them to school, right, and they're not going to be affected by this fitna that's out there, right? And my family member that that believed that, right, after one semester, no, a year and a half, said no, no, we're Islamic school, right? It's too powerful. It's too powerful, right? And so I think that's the first thing, first and foremost, right? And being a teacher, I think that a lot of parents don't realize, because they're not in this society constantly, right? Once you don't, as you get mature, you don't really need to be on the degradation of social media, or you're trying to you're busy doing other things, right? Whereas the young people are in it, right? They are in it, and we kind of, as parents, we lose sight of that. We have to really support them and help them grow, right? Because if we don't, you'll lose them. You'll lose them. I've seen that on from numerous different angles, that this world, this dunya out here is more powerful than we think that it is, right? I mean, and even like my eyes are opening up more as to how powerful it is, right? So that's one point. I think the next point, is as far as creating the environment, right? That the leadership of the Muslim community really has to look at that, right? And let's just be honest. I don't care which city you go to, there's a divide, an egotistical divide amongst leadership, right, in the different masajid. And as they argue, right, our kids are getting lost, right? And so it's like the groups over here, well, I'm happy that I have this over here, I'm providing this program, but the kids, just like parents that might, they're gonna enjoy the fun over here or the excitement over here, but they still see that there's something wrong with the family, that there's an uncomfortableness between the parents or the leadership, right? So it's like, even though they're with us, they still see that there's not 100% buy-in, right? And so we, as like the leaders, we have to find a way to come to stop bickering about insignificant things and put our resources together, right? I think that's very important. And that one's hard. That one's very hard because you have different philosophies, ideologies, this made up construct of nationalism, right? And so that is a very difficult one. But we have to create that environment to, especially for our youth, you know, um, to grow, right? We have to create an environment where our kids can get married, right? That's a huge issue. It's become so difficult now. You know what I'm saying? We have to create that environment where they don't they don't lose hope, right? And then say, oh, it's easier for me to get a boyfriend or a girlfriend rather than go through all of the difficulties dealing with the Muslims, right? That's a that's and so I think that I agree with you 100%, and I think that's what we have to do. So, in the back, the sister in the green.
I would say advice to my brother is, also looking at those who convert to Islam and how they choose to come into the fold of Islam without having any family, without having any relatives, without having any friends, but their heart is tied to Islam. So I think, the people who are immigrating and then those who are already here, we can all learn from each other. But um, one of the ways that people convert to Islam, how they stay Muslim, is keeping their hearts and their physical bodies tied to the masjid, tied to the community, inverting yourself in practices. It is absolutely difficult to be Muslim by yourself, and no one knows that more than a converted Muslim, a convert Muslim. So one of the things that you do is you insert yourself in anything, everything, and you make your lifestyle part of Islam. We don't know anything else. We don't know what it's like to have the dawn call, and hear it at breakfast, hear it at Dhuhr, hear it at Asr. But then how did you become Muslim? Well, you become Muslim because your heart is tied to Islam. You insert yourself in anything and everything that you can. You make your whole lifestyle Muslim, and then also try to find insulation, like within certain friendships, where you then build your own infrastructure.
It's important. I think, and what she said is very important. That like sometimes I'm envious of converts, right? Because it's like there was such a tribulation in their life somewhere, right? And they were searching, and by Allah's permission, they found this beautiful religion of Islam. And so it's like here's this hollow part of you, or this that you beg God, you didn't you might have said, I don't know what God is, but God guide me to you, whatever, because most converts went through, right, that moment of helplessness and hopelessness, that they asked, I need help. I don't know. All I know is what is in me right now is not a good feeling, right? And so for somebody like me, you're born into Islam, you're like, I really, I might have never felt that feeling before, right? Even though all of us need to live, right? We need to live in that helplessness, right? We need to live in that helplessness. But I'm kind of envious of people that convert to Islam, because it's like, and then you see from them that when they become Muslim, right? There's a izzah that sometimes the people that are born into Islam don't have, because it's like, now I have finally found what I'm looking for, right? And you see that amongst a lot of converts. It's like they don't, it's like they don't even want to listen to anybody. It's like, no, I'm in the state of Islam now, right? I am in the state of Islam. You don't come at me with this crazy stuff that you had before, right? Because I already know what it's like to be on that ship drifting in the ocean, not knowing when this ship is going to go over and I'm going to drown, but I saw this lighthouse in the distance, and I just had to pray. I jumped off the ship and I had to pray that I can swim to this lighthouse, right? And you got out and you started swimming to this lighthouse. And by the permission of Allah, you made it there. How the devil could you ever go back to, as compared to somebody that, they're born into Islam, and you're seeing over here all of the partying and oh my God, that's looks so fun, but then the person that has already been there and they're like, no, that's death and destruction. I don't want to be with those people, right? So I'm kind of envious. I'm envious of, because, I mean, of course, I love this religion, and it's in me. But I've always been envious of people that have converted to Islam. You know. So thank you for that point. Any other points?
Just to tie to what brother was saying earlier about being an immigrant and coming to the new country and having challenges, and one of those challenges, unfortunately, that's not just related to immigrants these days, like, is just the reality of economic hardships.
Mm-hmm.
So along those lines, even just sitting here listening to your awesome lecture is actually a luxury that many people cannot afford right now
Mm-hmm.
because they're doing second jobs not to prosper but just to survive.
Yeah.
And especially younger people too, who on top of their studying long hours just trying to keep up, they're also faced with hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loan debt. That
Yeah.
is literally handicapping their life choices,
Mm-hmm.
marriage prospects, and just their livelihoods. So how does Islamic community address something like that? Because honestly, I see that more of a as a barrier to dawah than, believe it or not, than partying. Because I
Hmm.
don't see young people partying all that much these days. What I am observing is just this major fear of what is future going to bring in. What I'm observing is just this survival of the fittest, trying to get through the class,
Mm-hmm.
get decent grades, then get a job and
Mm-hmm.
get a second one just to be able to pay rent. And it's very, and then what I'm also observing is just that sense of exhaustion that prohibits any kind of a critical intellectual thought
Mm-hmm.
that naturally leads to Islam. And in all honesty, the reason why why I brought up the immigrant background is I've seen that with my own community. When I immigrated here in the 90s, I was acutely aware of immigrant families where mother and father are working two jobs, kids are kind of left on their own, get disconnected
Yeah.
from their culture, not to
Mm-hmm.
mention the religion. And what I'm seeing is a very sad realization is it's not just immigrants these days. Everybody
Everybody.
is like that.
I'm going to answer this, and it's going to be a tough answer that people don't want to hear. Right? It would see. Prophet Muhammad SAW said, "I fear for my ummah wealth more than poverty." Right? That's what the Prophet Muhammad SAW said. I fear for my ummah wealth more than poverty. So I would say from there, and people might not like to hear it, but as a Muslim in Islam, right, we should actually think to lower our quality of living, right? Focusing on what is most important, right? Rather than increasing our quality of living and being constantly in this rat race, right? I fear for my ummah wealth more than poverty, right? So now you take that information. We might not like it today, but then we look at all of the great people, right? So you have the Prophet Muhammad SAW, right? Of course, we have a connection. That is our Prophet SAW. But like I said, that he is the ruby among stones, right? He is the ruby among stones. So we might not be able to achieve. Well, we not might not. We that's his status, right? As the Rasul, right, and the Nabi, right. But then we look at the companions, right? What was their life, right? They had, right, the possibility of immense wealth, right? Of immense wealth, and there were some of them that were wealthy, right? But how did they live, right? Did Islam come and they took this to increase their quality of life, right? Or did they actually fight against this increasing of their quality of life, right? To stay near and dearer to Allah and His Messenger, right? So you have like Omar ibn al-Khattab when he would right, when he sent his governors to Egypt, right, that he would go check on them and he would check what are they wearing, what are the clothes that they're wearing, right? And I want to say it's Egypt. I'm forgetting the name of the city. If anybody can remind me, but the people started the governor started to wear the clothes of the people, right? Is you're a governor, you should wear the best, right? And it's like when Omar saw that, he was in fear, I want to say that he started throwing rocks at them, right? Because you're allowing for your status to change you, right? Look at any of the Salaf, any of the scholars of Islam to this day, right? What was their life, right? What was their life? There is a sweetness in avoiding the dunya, right? I mean, what did they say? The occupation of the scholar is book copying and book selling. That's the occupation of it, right? A lot of the they didn't take on the state job, right? Because they knew that there was fitna that came with it, right? So that's what I would say. It's not a popular thing today, right? But we have to be honest, right? And say what's affecting us today, right? What is affecting us today? And so that I think to there is the point, right? Is that in school, I'll mention this and I'll try not to be too long, but we were talking about Henry David Thoreau, right? And in his writings, and the example that I gave to the kids is that if you go and you sit on a field and the sun hits you, you're going to get a state, you're going to go into a state of joy and excitement just from having the sun hitting your skin. It's just naturally, if we think about it, right? You, like they say, frolic in the sun. But then when you leave that and you come back to the world in this dunya, in this rat race, you lose that, right? Everything that you need, Allah has already provided for you, right? We kind of forget that. So I would say to that, and it's a difficult, right, is that we have to maybe slow down and refocus on what's important, right? I think that's very important.
There's one thing in our nature that sometimes we try to seek validation from people. We want to prove ourselves to people through material things.
Yeah.
And that's a big trick of shaitan. Try to say you need to look flashy, you need to look rich, you need to look, and that's where we lose our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Mm-hmm.
Is that we care more about what people are going to say about us. We have to prove ourselves to people, and especially in the culture of the pressure of the family. You went to America, you need to be rich, you need to be. They don't care if you become religious or more religious or you have iman because they want to see you owning so many assets, have bank accounts, this and that. Even though you are living a decent life, you're not eating haram, you just live like survival. And you're happy with that to maintain your iman, your salawat in time, make sure you stay away from haram and so forth. That requires, as you say, mashallah, you have to minimize the dunya that distract us from connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But he's the environment, they always make you look like you're nobody.
Yeah.
But that's the challenge of the nafs. If you want to prove yourself to the society, then you lose your recognition with Allah. So that's why I said you have to make a choice, if you want Islam or not.
Yeah.
But,
I think that's and I'll just say this, just right. We're going to have to stand in front of Allah, right? And certain titles that we may give ourselves, certain right have in this dunya, it's not a position with Allah. It just isn't, right? And you'll fight to have it to have this position here in this dunya, right? And lose your position with Allah, And so if you gain the world and you lose Allah, then in reality you gain nothing and you've lost everything, right? So with that, alhamdulillah, we'll finish it. So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. All right, assalamu alaikum, guys. Thank you.